I get over yours or their computer in the production office at work. Power supply stopped working. Now this thing was bought for $40 in 2012 and it's been running that computer non-stop since then. So it's about 3 years it's been on continuously. It's only been off a handful of times. Mainly, the only time it's ever been off is because of due to power outages. And the UPS batteries weren't not very good, so within half an hour the UPS shut down too. But this has only ever been powered off completely around 4 or 5 times in the last 3 years. It spent all of its life on, constantly on, never turned off. So yeah, I had to race home, get this old bagger, and get the power supply to this and whack it in that computer. And I've got to set it the trouble. Because the FSP group server power supplies are actually quite good. They're designed to be left on and just forget about them. You leave them on and don't ever turn them off. They're designed for that reliability. They're long-term mean time. They get a lot of mean time before failure hours. I think I've actually showed that power supply before. I might have pulled it apart and had a good look in there. It's actually all good, clean. Components are all in good nick, so that power supply should last for quite a while. GMX Smart QC series. It's got this little button on the back here, Smart QC button. Caution, no push when component or computer is working. Now all this dust and stuff here, it's just the office itself is relatively dry. It's just got moisture and fruit in the air. That sticky oil in the air has gone through the computer. Only the fans and the bottom of the case was caked in it, but the board and all the heat sinks, they're bloody clean. Surprising. Yeah, it's one of those little leading edge. That's a modern one of these from 2007. Yeah. Same size as this mini case, a little Optima. The Scores used to use them. It's a pretty cheap, flimsy thing, but got an Intel motherboard, ATI 2600 graphics card in it, and its matching sound card. Yeah, it's done pretty well for an old XP machine to run the plan at work. So the cheap power supply is very fortunate that this thing had fail-safe. Well, it didn't actually take the motherboard out, because if it did, it would have been stuck, because a license for the PLC and everything to run the whole plant in the factory is only tied to the board in that computer. I was very lucky this did not take that motherboard, although it would have had some hefty downtime. Anyway, I'm going to proceed to change the rest of these caps. I sort of let it down, so let's change them all. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're just all on the 5 and 12 volt rail there, because they're bulged. What would happen is you try to turn it on, and it'll be on for about 2 seconds and go off, and it'll go zzz, zzz, make an oscillating sound. So those were shorting out, stressing out the power supply, and this was shutting itself off, protecting itself. So yeah, bad capacitors. These are high quality, lowest ESR. -1 1405 degrees Celsius. Well, it was pretty air conditioned too in that office, so it was never hot. So it was never overstressed thermally. It's always been cool, very cool to run. And it lasted 3 years continuously. High quality, look at that. That's quality. Anyway, let's recap this one. I'm going to put, hopefully I got enough of this value in Japanese capacitors I'll put on this thing. Change all the lot. All those. Maybe those two. But I don't think they're any stressed. 85 degrees Celsius there. 5th 2011 the board was made, but this was made in 2012. I'm going to find some spare screws, because he took all the screws out and he kept them, which is fair enough. That's alright, I got plenty of bloody screws anyway. Let's recap it. It's even got a nice filter choke. Oh, it's just all been recapped. Yeah, let's blend these. FHY 470 microfarad, 250 volts. Interesting, cheap nastiness. T-post should be alright in there. G-Lux on. Yeah, G-Lux on, a typical of LG and Samsung to use. Same with Samwa and Samyang, but T-Pros, yeah, they can be crap. They are crap. But let's see how they go in this. If they die again, well, I'll put some good ones in it. But I think that should last in this. It's not going to be too much of a problem. Cheap flimsy heatsink. Not very chunky aluminium, so not very efficient at cooling. I should change them all, but yeah, it's not bulged. Don't worry about it. Now let's put it back together. Got to find the replacement screws now. Alright, all back together, all fixed. Time for a really good blowout and give it a test. Before I power this thing up to normal means, I want to see what this bloody QC button does. It says nothing what it does. Oh, I see it. You hold it down and it turns the power supply on. So it goes across a circuit that this green wire goes to. So holding that down and jumps this green wire to ground internally and turns the power supply on. Smart! So if you were to push that when the computer is working, I think that'll just override the motherboard and turn the computer off. Well, I'm going to put my multimeter up to this thing, but it stayed on, so it's good. It looks promising. Let's put my multimeter up and check the voltages on these rails. Hopefully they're all good. Should be, because the capacitors were the problem. Multimeter's on and connected. And then it says here the model is ATX 550H, so from what I can tell, this is a 550 watt power supply. Doesn't say it, but you got to read it in the model. It's in the model number. 550H. It's a 550 watt power supply. Same as my thermal take power supply. Oh well, I've got good capacitors in this now, so I got a good power supply. Well, it was only a 300, but it's not. 550 watt. Score. 12.20 volts. Not turning off. Right, let's check the 5 volt rail. Now the 5 volt rail. Yep, that's good. Oh well, I've got a 600 watt in that one. My main rig's got an 850 watt. My other rig's got a 750 watt. And the office computer in the house has got a 550 watt thermal take. That's got a 460 watt. That's the power supply I recapped. So now I've got a spare power supply. The one out of that one was only a 360 watt, but it's a good brand, a proper server one. So, because that computer that runs a plant it's on indefinitely and never turn it off. It's running Windows XP Professional. It's got a Core 2 quad, 2GB of RAM. ATI 2, what did I say? It was 2500 or something. Graphics card, and a matching equivalent sound card by the same, similar, I think it's the same manufacturer. Discharge capacitors. Turn it off. Discharge capacitors. It's working normally. But yeah, it's not too bad little rig. It's a bit better than the motherboard in this one in terms of features. It supports a Core 2 quad, so yeah, but probably just as good as this one if I were to upgrade it and put Windows 7 on it. It's not a bad little rig. So yeah, that's why yeah, should be bloody forever flawless with a proper server grade power supply in it. It's a good thing I pulled that power supply apart and cleaned it and did some good and made sure it was all in good nick. So it should last for quite a while, that one. There we go, it's a 550 watt power supply. What a score. Plenty capacitors anyway, I just write that on there. GMX. Give it a good clean, and that'll be it. Put it away as a spare. Anyway, that'll be enough for now. Thanks for watching.